but you guys have got some good energy in this room, right? Like, super. So yeah, well, hopefully we'll be able to see it. I know you guys don't need, you don't need this, but.
Oh, that's perfect. You good?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. I'm so grateful to be here today, first of all, so thank you for allowing me to come and speak to you guys. I've had a really long career in sales. I've ran small companies, big companies. I've worked with some mega brands. I'm going to get into that. But one thing that I've learned is that positivity improves people's productivity. Do you agree?
Yes.
Right? Because I can feel all that positive energy in the room today. Like all the cheering and all that, it really gets you going and it moves people into action. But guess what? Positive leadership improves team performance, right? Who here in this room wants to build a team? Show of hands. Okay, everybody. You want to build a team because why?Hat's that going to do for you? Is that going to free up your time?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to build more money. That's what I hear.
Yes.
Listen, I was at I mean, I was at the back of the room like this taking notes this morning. I'm like, how do I want to forget this, and how do I get into that seat so that I can do what you guys are doing? Because like I'm just impressed. So yeah, positive leadership improves team performance, and I've learned that because I've worked with some of the biggest brands in the world. I'm the most positive person you're probably going to meet. And it's for a reason, right? And I'm going to go into that today because what I want to give you today is some really good snippets, some lessons, some tips that you can take with you to make sure that you're building your teams in the right way. Because we've all worked on teams with leaders that didn't feel so good, right? Yes. Have we all had that experience?
Right.
Yes, we've all had that experience. And that's why you're in these seats building your own business. I'm assuming for whatever reason, but you want to do that. So before we get into that, I want to just tell you a bit more about my story. So I have got an accent, obviously, right? I grew up in the UK, and my parents were both American hippies, and I grew up in an antique shop. So I grew up around sales, around relationships, around things coming and going all the time, and I'm really, really grateful for that. I didn't know that my career was going to be in retail. It was like 3 decades in retail, but I was always destined to work in a retailer because I grew up in one. And the benefit of that, again, was just learning how to, I listened to my mom all the time, having these relationships with people, connecting with people, hearing their stories, and then people would come back and sell a piece of furniture or buy a piece of furniture because they had these relationships with her, these stories, right? This really matters. So, fast forward, so I'm going to walk you through it. There's Drake on there for a reason, because I moved to the States in 2000 and then went to Canada for 16 years. So there's a bit of Drake on there, because I did start at the bottom and I went up, and I'll tell you how that happened. I started off working at 17 as a part-time salesperson, didn't know what I want to do with my life, got kicked out of home very young, was homeless for a couple of years, and got a first job in a retail store when I was about 19. I didn't think it was going to be a career that took me around the world, and actually I went from being an individual contributor to being a team leader of 6,000 people over 3 decades. Yeah.
Wow.
So it's been a really, really cool career, right? And I'm going to talk to you about some of those lessons that I learned through that career today. And these are some of the brands that I've worked for. So I've worked for Banana Republic, I've worked for Starbucks, I've worked for Whole Renfrew, which is a luxury brand in Canada. I've also worked for Apple, right? Everybody have an iPhone in here? Yeah, worked for Apple. So I've been really, really blessed in my career to work with some amazing brands, right? But it didn't happen by accident. So that's what I want to walk you through today. How did that happen? How did I go from being a kicked out teenager at 17, didn't go to school, to then ending up to run a team of 5,000 people for these significant brands? And now these brands hire me to come in, like Nicole said, like best kept secret. I come in, and when the brands aren't doing well and the sales aren't good, I go in and I work with the leaders there to turn everything around, right? So I'm going to walk you through how to do that today. Yeah, sound good?
Yes, yes.
Yes. So I want you to look at your neighbor right now and just say, I'm ready to grow.
I'm ready
I'm
to
ready
go.
to grow.
Okay, do it again, louder.
I'm ready to grow.
Right, okay, let's get going. Okay, so, hold on. Oh, I'm just going to do this. All right. So today I want to teach you 3 key lessons because I've only got 45 minutes and it's getting short about a minute, right? So 3 key lessons that I want to impart with you today. So if you take this away, you're going to be able to build a really solid team. And what I'm going to ask of all of you is by the end of this session that you have 2 things that you're going to take away and you're going to take action on. Exactly what you said, Mama, right? Take action, because there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of training, there's a lot of things you can do, but what happens is when you walk away with things and it's in your head, you don't actually take action on it. And I'm a big action person, so make sure by the end of this, you've got 2 things in your head that you can take away and actually put into place. Okay, whatever those 2 things are for you. So 3 key things that I'm going to teach you today. And those lessons that I've learned are: people work for leaders, right? People work for leaders. A positive mindset may be one of your most valuable assets. Not your degree, I'm not against school, trust me, I'm not. But your positive mindset will be one of your most valuable assets in business, in life, actually, relationships, anything you want to do. And then learning how to hold a team and yourself accountable is necessary, right? Accountability is one of these things that's probably one of the #1 questions I get from people in organizations. How do I have more accountability? I can see some heads nodding, right? Who wants more accountability in their life? Yeah. Why? What's that going to do for you? It's going to help you get things done. But the thing is, when we talk about accountability, nobody really knows what it is. It's kind of like that elusive thing, right? We all want more of it, but if I ask 10 of you in the room today what it means to you, it all means something different, right? So I'm going to break that down for you and what that looks like. Sound good?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes.
Yes, yes.
I know, I've been saying yes, yes, yes. Okay, so people work for leaders. This is true, right? People work for people, but people work for leaders. What's more powerful than this is actually, okay, people work for leaders. People actually are inspired to follow positive leaders. That's more powerful than anything. People follow you. Fine. Yeah, can I go like this? Okay, cool. Thank you. So people follow positive leaders and they're inspired by positive leaders. Can you think of anybody right now, like picture in your mind, somebody that totally inspires you to want to get up and move?
Yes, yes.
Who? Okay.
Eugene Thomas.
Okay, my mom. Your mom. Okay, I love it, right? Because leadership's not a title, you know. Contrary to some weird, leadership is actually what you do when you get up in the morning and how you behave and how you interact in the world, right? This is what leadership is. I learned that a long time ago. It didn't matter about my title if people wouldn't follow me, because I didn't get the results I wanted, right? So you want to get results, you want to inspire people to come with you and join what you're building, you need to recognize that you need to be a positive leader. None of those negative, you know, we all have bad days. I'm going to go into that, how you can actually move through that. But positive leadership really matters. Okay, so what's the #1 reason why teams fail? What do you think? What's the #1 reason why teams fail?
Bad leadership.
Leadership? What from that leadership? Lack of, okay.
Lack of positivity, lack of accountability, lack of leading, lack of inspiration, lack of motivation,
Micromanaging, right? Lack of
micromanaging,
listening skills,
negativity.
lack of connection with your team. You're already on the phone. We're going to get there in a minute.
Procrastination.
Procrastination. Okay, so the #1 reason why teams fail is a lack of communication. Okay? A lack of communication. And do you know how many Google searches there are a day on this question? Just take a wild guess. How many? 10,000, okay, 20,000, a million, 700 million searches
Oh, wow.
on Google on how to improve my communication skills. Now that's either a leader, right? Like leadership, or you're having a relationship with your partner or your kids, whatever that is, how to improve my communication skills. So the number one reason why teams fail is just a lack of communication, right? But it goes deeper than that. And as a leader, what we need to really be asking another question, and if we could ask a deeper question, which would be how to improve my connection skills, then everything would change, right? You just said it. You said it before. Why did you say connection skills before?
Because I did leadership workshop with John Maxwell.
Okay, I'm a Maxwell coach. Yeah. Okay, you're a student. Great. Yeah, what's your name?
Emerald.
Emerald. Okay, so Emerald was just saying about connection skills, right? She's a John Maxwell student. I'm a John Maxwell coach. So yeah, how to improve your connection skills. But this is not something we're taught. It's not something we learn. It's something we have to really intentionally practice. So who here uses FaceTime, uses Zoom? Yeah, we're all on FaceTime and Zoom? How many times do you have a FaceTime with somebody or a Zoom and it just the call disconnects? Yeah, in the last week, right? Yeah. Right. So all the time, right? We can literally see the disconnection happening when we're on a Zoom and a FaceTime and it's not working, right? But what happens when you're in a conversation with somebody on a daily basis, whether it be a parent, a kid, a neighbor, somebody on your team, and that conversation disconnects? Can you see it? You can't see it, right? So we're in conversations all day and we're disconnected from each other. And we're disconnected because why?
Lack of understanding.
Lack of understanding, okay. What else? Why are we disconnected from each other? Lack of communication, lack of presence, lack of listening. We are so focused on ourselves. You said that, right? You got it right. We're so focused on ourselves. When we're focused on ourselves, what happens is the disconnect happens. And if I had you in a workshop for 4 hours, I'd be doing like role plays and listening quizzes right now and making you ask probing questions to get yourself out of the way so that you can actually start hearing the other person. Because if I said to you, I'm going on a vacation tomorrow to Brazil, right? You might in your brain say, oh, you know what, I know somebody that went to Brazil, or I went to Brazil, and you want to start sharing with me, right? Right. So when we talk to each other, what happens is we actually trigger the other person with an experience and a memory. And when that happens, there's a disconnect that happens because the person that's speaking is not being listened to anymore. You're actually listening to yourself. Is that making sense? Yeah. So what's the number one thing that everybody wants on this planet? The number one thing? Money. Well, I would like to say it's money, but it's not actually the number one thing. Recognition, attention, validation. We want to be heard, we want to be seen, and we want to be understood.
Yes.
Right? That's what we want. That's the core of what we want. But we walk around having conversations that are disconnected, right? And we're thinking about ourselves all the time, and that's normal, by the way. I'm not immune from this human experience of being more interested in myself. Okay? So, and I think you guys should write this or take a screenshot of this. This is one of the best books I've ever read. It's 35 pages long, and it's been around a very long time. I give it to executives that I work with. And it's a book called Skill with People for a reason, because it teaches you the skill of people. This is going to change the way that you interact with people, even in your love life, in your, with your kids, with your whoever it is, but specifically with your team, right? Because people want to work for inspired by positive leaders, right? Which means you have to now put the attention on them and start listening better. So what he challenges us to do in this book is to take these 3 words out of your vocabulary. I, me, and mine. Okay. When I'm working with leaders that have a team that's disconnected to them, I literally ask them to take these 3 words out of their vocab for 24 hours. They call me back and they're like, I can't talk. I don't know how to speak to people. Like, please, can I just start using those words again? They just don't know how to do it because it takes the focus, right, off you as the person and puts it on the other person. It's really important. Try it, you know, like, how do we do that, right? Like, we have to start asking more questions. We have to start connecting. You can keep going.
What is the author's name?
Les Giblin. Les Giblin, Lesgiblin. And it's one of the best books because it walks you through like 7 steps of everything you need to know about a person, from asking yes questions, but that I, me, mine, and listening is really important. Okay. Next. And how do I know this? Because who in here loves a good selfie, a good group selfie? Yeah? You've been doing it all day. Right? Okay, so what's the first thing? You've taken the group selfie, you've got your girl, you've got your crew, whatever, you've taken the group selfie. What's the first thing you do when you've taken that selfie and you've got that picture on your phone? Look at the selfie. Look at yourself! We all go, zoom, and we're like, okay. And then what happens if you don't look good? Do you post it? Okay. So just in case you thought you're sitting in your seat going, that's not me. No. I think about people. I'm not selfish. It's not about me. It's about everybody else. No, it's not true because we all do this, right? Make sense? Yeah. Okay, so how do we stay connected? There's 5 connecting principles. These all familiar to you, very much so, that really great connectors do. And when you can connect like this and use this intentionally, your communication skills are going to go up and your people are going to feel fantastic working for you. And that's, do not make assumptions, right? We make assumptions and judgments all day about what we think somebody is thinking, or what they want to say, or what they want to do, or what they want to achieve. And that means what? We're making our own decisions. Yeah. So we need to be not making assumptions, which causes us to be selfless. We have to put ourselves on the back burner. When we're leading people, we're building teams, it's about the team, right? They're going to help you, but it's about the team. It takes effort, it requires us to be present, it requires us to listen at a different level. It requires that we are self-aware when this is happening. So, you know, usually when I teach this, when you come out of the room, you start going into conversations and you've got this all other awareness going on, and it's like kind of interesting where you're like, oh yeah, I'm bringing it back to me right now. Okay, let me ask 2 more questions to the person to find out more about what they're talking about, right? And we need to ask more questions. Questions is not something that we are taught to do, okay? We are taught to talk, speak, tell, direct as leaders. We're not taught to ask questions. The more that you can be curious and ask questions with people, the better it's going to be with your connection. People are going to feel much better working with you and for you and want to join your team. Why? Because we want to be heard, seen, and understood, right? So asking questions. Questions like, tell me more about that. What did you learn when you had that experience? Who did you meet on that vacation that you went to last week, right? Asking these questions and stop bringing the conversation back to yourself is just going to make that person feel so good about being in your presence. And I can tell you this, I sit on planes and I travel a lot, right? I go to brands, travel a lot, all over the country, and I sit on planes and I get off the plane at the end and they think I'm the best person ever. I'm like, can I get your number? I want to talk to you. And they know nothing about me, but all I did was ask them questions like about themselves and got them to talk, right? And so I want you to really pay attention to this because this will change the way that you engage in the world. It will change the way that your relationships are, and it will make people want to join and follow what you're doing, okay? Okay. All right. And I love this. This is a John Maxwell quote. If you just want to listen more and be that person that shows up and makes everybody feel seen, heard, and valued and understood, just be interested and amazed and not interesting and amazing. You don't have to take up space, right? Especially when you're a leader, when you're building a team. It's about making sure everybody else feels included, right? So try it, try it on. Maybe when you're on the yacht, right? The cruise tonight, maybe you're like, oh, I'm gonna ask a few more questions when somebody shares something. I'm gonna practice this asking 2 more probing questions when somebody shares something, and I'm not gonna bring the conversation back to myself. I'm gonna really start to practice this muscle, right? Does that make good sense?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, cool. Leaders create more leaders, right? That's what we need to do. That's my mission. My mission is to create more leaders, 100%. Okay, so I want to share a story with you about when I learned this really early on in my career. So I moved to Florida back in 2000 from the UK. I was working at Starbucks at the time as a store manager. And I was managing the store on 14th and Ocean Drive. Anybody been to Ocean Drive ever? Like South Beach, yeah? Okay, so there's a but anybody going to a Starbucks store ever?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So I was working in that store and it was great, it was busy, there was tons of tourists, we were killing it with sales. I felt I'd won the lottery. I moved from the UK, I was on a South Beach store with palm trees every day. I was like, this is great. But one thing kept happening, and that was every time somebody ordered a drink, they'd make the drink, it would go to the bar at the end, right? And then at the end of the bar, they kept taking the wrong drink. Like, they're all tourists, they don't care. They're just like, that looks good, it looks like what I ordered. They would take it, then we'd have to make it again. And it was really annoying, right? First of all, and number two, it wasn't profitable and it wasn't a good customer experience, so it wasn't great all around. So what did I do? Because I was practicing my connection skills versus my communication skills, and I was acting curious, I just asked a different question. I asked the question, how do I make sure that that person, because it's not about me, it's about that person, my customer, gets what they need at the end of the bar? And that is why this happened. So anybody walk into a store and a Starbucks and get a name on their cup?
Yeah.
That's how that happened. Okay?
Wow.
Right? So that propelled my career, I can tell you that. I literally picked up the Sharpie one day, put the name on the cup, and then that was it. It went everywhere. But it was a simple thing, guys. It was a small thing that cost me no money, the company no money, other than being curious and wanting to make sure that I was putting the focus on the other person and not on myself. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So if you will, and I love this quote, if you take anything away from the first key lesson, it is this. I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
Yeah, that's true.
It's such a true statement. And how do you get people to join your team and build a team?
Make them feel good.
Make them feel good, right? Okay, all right. Okay, so the next key lesson, go back. Yeah. A positive mindset may be one of the most valuable assets you can cultivate and build, right? And I do say cultivate and build because it is a practice. This is not something we're naturally born with. Well, we were, but then we got programmed the other way. So, this is something that we want to build. So I want you to all stand up for a minute. And I want you to put your arms out in front of you, like this, like you're pointing forwards. And I want you to swing your arms as far as you can, go to the left. Okay, to the left. Right? So
Your left?
Your left. Your left. Not, don't follow me. Your left. Okay. So have you got a mental note of how far you went? Yeah, so look at where you pointed to. Okay, so come back to the middle. All right, shake up, shake up, shake up. All right, we're gonna just do a little bit of march. Because we're gonna activate different parts of our brain right now, right? To get some energy flowing and get us to achieve some different results. All right, you ready? Yeah. Okay, so you're gonna bounce a little bit, shake your arms, so you got that energy flowing. Okay, so now put your hands in front of you, and hopefully you don't have a really tight jacket like me. Now swing your arms around and see how far you go. Yeah, the same way, the same way, the same way, the same way, go left. Go left!
Your other left.
Okay, who went further when they swung it around? Okay, all right, perfect, it worked, good. All right, why is that important? Why is that important? Because we get fixated on what we think we can do based on the evidence of what we have seen ourselves do. Would we agree with that?
Yes.
So, if I hadn't done that little jiggy, shaky, get up and swing it around, you would have been stuck on the first time you ever flung your arms around. That's what you could have achieved. But with a little bit of movement, a little bit of change, a bit of positive energy, you could go much further, right?
Yes.
So I don't want you to ever feel stuck. If you're feeling stuck, do that exercise and that activity so it tricks your brain into that you're not stuck, okay? So, yeah. And the reason for this is we have over 7,000 thoughts a day Okay, this is the National Science Foundation. 7,000 thoughts a day. And how many of those thoughts do you believe are negative if you were going to say on a percentage scale? How much percentage? 90, 80, 70?
75%.
Okay, it's actually 80%. You were right. You said 80, right? Yeah. 80% are negative, okay? And this is studied. This is scientific. This is not me making this up. However, when you know this, guess what you get to do about it?
Change it.
Right? And of those 80% of thoughts that you have every day, how many are repeated from yesterday, do you think?
80%.
80%. 80% of thoughts we're having today are repeated from yesterday, right? So those thoughts turn into our beliefs, right? Because what is a belief?
Thoughts become things.
Right. It's a thought. A belief is just a thought that's repeated over time, right? That's what a thought is. Now, knowing that, you can actually change your belief system by just repeating a new thought over and over and over and over again until it becomes what you actually believe, right? Making sense?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, I've heard that a lot of times, but I was always like, I'm always the person like, tell me how. Give me the good stuff. Tell me how to do it. I'm going to tell you how to do it. But before we do that, I'm going to tell you a quick story. Yeah. Go the other way. Yeah. You're doing a fabulous job, by the way. Thank you. We're making it work. All right. So, positive energy creates positive possibilities. When I was a regional director working for a luxury brand in Canada, I'll never forget this. It was one of the biggest lessons of my life. I was leading stores. It was Black Friday was coming up. Everybody knows what Black Friday is, yeah? Shopping and all that stuff. Okay, so we were planning and getting ready for the biggest sales day of our life, right, in our world. Everything stops and everything goes into planning that. I was there with the buyers, I was there with the marketing team, I was there with the store teams. I was trying to figure out how we're going to deliver a 25% increase on last year. How many of you would like a 25% increase this month to last month?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Okay. So it's a pretty big lift, right? Like it's a big lift. You got to do a little bit of planning, a little bit of hustle, like figure out who on your team, who's going to help you get that. So we were planning all of that, and in the midst of all of this, the best boss we had ever had got promoted, got taken to another division, you know, a positive leader, and we got a new boss, and none of us had met her yet. So we're in the room, we're doing the planning, and all of a sudden in walks our new boss, and she introduces herself, and she says, she looks at the whiteboard, everything, and she says, yeah, that goal's really not high enough. She's like, you need to raise that up to 40%, right? Yeah, you're all like, ooh, look at your face. So she walks out, and we're all having a whole big, you can imagine what happened in that room. Who is she? What does she know? How can she tell us what to do? She's never worked. Have any of you had those conversations? Right, okay. So we're having this conversation, right? And literally, because, you know, I'm the positive one and the happy one and everything's always great, guess who got assigned the job to go and have a conversation with her about how crazy she was? Me. It was me. Right? So obviously I didn't want to walk down to her office and say, hey, you know what, she's an executive, you're a bit crazy, like what's going on, this is not realistic. But I had to summon up the courage to go down and say, you know, nice to meet you. Just, you know, wanted to touch base. And I said, you know, I think that goal that you're giving us is a little bit too high, and this is, let me tell you why. She was on her computer, I'll never forget this, she looks at me and she goes, you know, April, if you don't believe it, you can't achieve it. And that was it. And I was like, okay. Turn around, walk out of the office, right? And I'm like, it's 5 o'clock, so I don't have to run into anybody. I didn't achieve the goal that we set out. And I was literally like, okay, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? So I went home that night, and I literally went to the store, bought some chocolate bars. You know, those big chocolate bars that are in big packages? Everybody loves chocolate, right?
Mm-hmm,
I love chocolate. So on my Mac, I made this little, you know, bill, like this dollar bill. I wrapped up the chocolate bars. I literally had 2 bags of, I think it was like 50 chocolate bars. It was kind of ridiculous, but I never figured it was going home. And I had $1 million bill with the name of the store on it and all that stuff, because that's what we needed to deliver anyway. Went back to the store, went back to the office the next day, put the chocolate bars on everybody's desk before they got there, and I literally said to them, we're not going to talk about what we can't do, we're just going to talk about what we can do. And when we achieve this goal, we're going to eat these chocolate bars and we're just going to celebrate, right? Like all the recognition that you guys are having today. Well, we hit the goal and we beat it, and we actually did a 47% increase. So what that required of us, we did actually $1.1 million. It was pretty significant at the time. And it really taught me something. I was like, wow, my limited beliefs were actually getting in the way of my team's results, right? That's a really big lesson as a leader, right? Because what we think is possible, other people are going to think is possible. So it's really, really important. Sorry, go back. Is it doing its own thing? Yeah. Oh, okay. So we need a new mindset to get new results, right? So how do we do that? We have to release the limiting belief that we have. We have to reach for a new one, and then we have to reframe it into a new positive statement, affirmation. Anybody like affirmations?
Yes.
Yeah, I love a good affirmation. Me and my YouTube affirmations in the morning, right? Yeah. So you have to reframe it. And you know, we do practice this a lot in our personal lives, but we have to kind of start applying it to our business life. We have to start applying it with our teams, and then we can really start to elevate the results. So how do you do that? Well, in this experiment, it looked like this. So it was releasing the thought that I couldn't, you can keep hitting it, yeah. It was releasing the thought of like, I'm not able to achieve the goal, to I'm choosing to believe it's possible to achieve the goal. And then I set a new goal and made it fun with a chocolate bar. If you put something fun on it, people usually get excited about it. But you know, I practice this a lot all the time with everything in my life. My kids know this one. And you know, my daughter called me the other day and she was like, well, Mom, if I'm in a really bad relationship, do I just say I'm in a really good one and then it just appears? And I was like, yeah, no, it doesn't work like that, right? So sometimes, yeah, it's true. It's not going to magically change the person in front of you, right? If you do that. So use a bridge thought, okay? So a bridge thought is when you're in a situation where you're having a challenge and you have this limiting belief that's getting in the way. Choose a bridge thought, which is, I'm choosing to believe I can see something different. I'm choosing to believe. Or I'm grateful for this experience so that I've learned what I need to do differently, right? Does that make sense? So it's like this bridge thought that takes you from limiting belief and then gets your brain to move to what's possible, okay? All right. So you gotta, this is in the book as well, there's a lot of this in the book, but you gotta just reframe your self-talk. I don't know. We use I can't, I don't know how, I'm scared, I'm not sure, and I will never be able to all the time. And people around us are using it all the time. So we need to not get enrolled in those conversations and actually have fun and enroll people in I can conversations, right? Like I go through life all day, and Nicole knows this because I know her, literally enrolling people in positive conversations. When people say, I'm not the person that you're going to call and say you can't do something, because I'm going to be like, okay, how do we release, reach, and reframe that, right? So yeah, so that's really about positive mindset. Okay, thank you. Okay, so who here wants more accountability? Okay, do you know how to hold a team accountable?
No.
No? No, it's tough. Even ourselves accountable. I have people on like my WhatsApp group every day that we're keeping each other accountable. But accountability moves and progresses people to step forward and like see different results in their life, right? So it's really, really important. So learning how to hold yourself and your team accountable is necessary. In the book, I go into this in detail, but I know that we're short on time. So accountability, if I was going to ask you what accountability is, what is it? Just shout it out.
Own it.
Own it.
Take
Okay.
responsibility.
Take responsibility.
To yourself.
Say that again?
Being honest to yourself.
Being honest to yourself. Yeah, you can't change something if you're not being honest and facing reality, right? So you're literally taking an account of your abilities. Mm-hmm. That's what I really truly believe accountability is. You're just accounting for what your abilities are. And once you know what your abilities are, you can actually do something about changing it, right? So there's this methodology called above the line, below the line. Has anybody ever heard of this? Yeah, a few of you. Okay, because there's all these accountability frameworks and things I could go into because I just love accountability, but I'm going to keep it simple. So if you think about a line, right, and then above the line is positive and below the line is negative, right? then we're having above the line thoughts all day, and we're having above the line conversations all day, and then we're having below the line conversations all day. And above the line, you're open, curious, and committed to learn. And when you're acting from below the line, you're actually closed, defensive, committed to being right. And when you're committed to being right, guess what happens? You get stuck, right? You don't want to be stuck, right? You want to be able to progress forwards. So yeah. So above the line leaders who take accountability for themselves, they recognize a solution, they assume responsibility, they stop blaming others, and they start being accountable and in control. And when you do that, you can start to change things dramatically. When you're below the line, you protect yourself from the situation, you wait to see what happens, you deny that there is an issue, and you ignore the problem. And guess what? You're just a negative influence. And nobody wants to be around people that have negative influence. It just doesn't help build what you're trying to build, right? So as you're going into conversations with people or situations with people, I want you to start thinking about this. Are you above the line? Are you acting above the line? Are you below the line? Where's your thought process? People around you on your team, are they above the line? Are they below the line? And then ask yourself, what ripple are you creating? Because every day you're creating a ripple. It's either positive, negative, or it's neutral. Neutral's not bad, right? But you are doing one of them every day when you interact with people. Because if we go back to the beginning when we were talking about connection, connectors are intentional, right? About what they're doing in the world. Making sense? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So there's more about this in the book as well, but there is 3 things that everybody on your team wants to say yes to every day. And if they go home at night or wherever they're going or get off a call with you, and they cannot say yes to these 3 things, they will follow you wherever you want to take them. I've learned that, I've learned this experience, so if they say no, they're not going to follow you, right? Same with customers, clients, you're building teams. So yes, they want to know that you care for them, yes, they want to know that they can trust you, and yes, they want to know that you can help them, which is what you guys do, education, right? So that wraps up that session. So thank you very much.